on the North Dakota Irrigation Association board. He's also a CEO and co-founder of Farmer's Choice, an ag retail company specializing in carbon-based programs and products. Steve's philosophy is advancement of agriculture. Farmer's Choice is a crop optimization company with innovative emerging farming technologies. So, Steve, take it away.
Thank you. Once again, Steve Knorr. I'm a fourth-generation farmer. I have an irrigated farm in McLean County by Turtle Lake. Was part of the mile marker 7.5 project, which was one of the bigger ones that got water out of that canal that we built years ago. So been farming for the last 15 years there. Prior to that was a dry land and irrigated farmer in a family operation by Carlsruhe, North Dakota. And in the mid 2000s, the excitement of biofuels drove me to go find some more irrigated farmland. Like I say, in my lifetime, I've raised $1.75 a bushel corn, and I've raised $8, more towards the $1.75 than the $8. But to kick it off here, obviously, want to share a funny story here to get the mood going here. On the way down this morning, I was driving through Max, obviously slowed down to go through the town, and saw that a patrol car pulled out behind me. And as I was coming out of town, doing the speed limit, pheasant comes out of a ditch, hits my hood, flips up, and lands on the patrol car. So I pull over, he lights me up, pull over, and as he's walking up to the window, I was thinking, well, why did he pull me over? I mean, I was going the speed limit, so rolled down the window, said, officer, why did you pull me over? He said, for flipping him the bird. Anyways, thanks for allowing me to speak today. Thanks for Steve Hansen, obviously the president of the association, and Danny here. Want to talk about carbon. Dave gave a great speech. It really kind of sets the precedence of what's happening. We've been hearing about this for the last several years about carbon. And you open up a magazine, it may be a carbon product, it may be a biological. It's a lot of stuff coming at us. About a year ago, there was something stated by a political person, Secretary Vilsack. And he said, there's something coming that if you don't get in front of, it's going to be you're going to miss the opportunity of lifetime. And that was about this 45Z, 40B, all these things coming down the pipeline. And that resonated with wait a second, I've been farming for 25 years. Yes, I've gotten the government programs and whatever. At the end of the day, what was this? So I started doing some research and said, okay, what is this thing he's talking about? Does anybody know, prior to today from Dave speaking, what 45Z is? Steve Hansen, one. Okay, 45Z is an opportunity for us as farmers. It was placed in the Inflation Reduction Act with bipartisan support, I believe, Dave. Okay, so both sides of the fence said, yep, this is a good one. What was unique about that was it opened the door for us as farmers. But if we don't take advantage of it, we're going to miss an opportunity. We're going to hop into that and share what that opportunity looks like. So the landscape, Section 45Z is a low carbon transportation biofuel tax credit. Okay, biofuel manufacturer can earn a 2025 tax credit. It was enacted for 3 years, 25, 26, and 27. And quote me if I'm wrong, Dave, because he's the expert back there. Okay, so we've got 3 years. Okay, that starts January 1. So the crop we produced in 24 will be crushed in 25. Okay, we're hoping that gets extended. We're waiting for a few things, and I'll talk about that here shortly. What I want to talk about is farmer control. Okay, we're the key contributor and vital to that success. And if you listen to Dave's speech, he talked about scope 3. Scope 3 is the feedstock. That's a bushel of grain that we produce. Okay? So obviously, grain carbon intensity is the number one driver for fuel carbon intensity. Carbon intensity is the amount of energy in a single bushel of grain. Okay? Farmers can earn premiums for low CI grain in the 45Z opportunity. Our story, farmers must tell their story. There's a new standard for farm data, the CI score. The Department of Energy puts farmers at an average of 29.1. Okay, call that and Dave said it. That's not your score today, but that's the average. So the bushel of grain today is 29.1. Remember that number, okay? We're going to walk through some math here shortly. Collaboration. Together we can control the narrative. Biofuels need low CI farmers, and farmers need biofuels. It's a relationship piece. 45Q, which was enacted in the same Inflation Reduction Act, that was basically a pathway for the biofuel companies to capture on Scope 1 and Scope 2, correct, Dave? So carbon capture storage, okay? Blueflint Ethanol, Red Trail Energy here in Western North Dakota, they have an attribute that really none of the I states have, very few, on being able to sequester carbon in the ground. So the government said, all right, we're going to give you a tax credit based on Scope 1, Scope 2 reduction, which is putting CO2 in the ground, Scope 1. Summit Pipeline, have you guys heard that before? Summit Pipeline? Okay, Summit Pipeline is a pipeline they're going to build from the 54 ethanol plants in the I states, come all the way through South Dakota, North Dakota, and sequester CO2 in the ground. That's going to help lower their score at the plant. I'm a farmer, and indirectly that's going to benefit me potentially. Okay, it's going to help the ethanol industry. Well, they say that doesn't pay my bills. 45Z will give us the opportunity to get a direct payment in collaborating with the ethanol plants, because they need my low carbon grain. Okay. So how do I get low carbon grain? Okay, we get low carbon grain through this carbon intensity score, which is basically the visibility, the value behind the way in which we produce, showcasing practices that minimize the score, help farmers win by taking control of their farm data. Okay, so the carbon intensity score, that's at 29.1. That's the starting number that we all get. Carbon intensity certification basically is our methodology to score that and then certify it. Okay, so carbon intensity is the production footprint of a total energy assigned to a bushel of grain. Okay, at 29.1. Brian, can you take your calculator? You got a phone out. Can you bring your calculator up? All right, so here's the number. So my intensity score, okay, using the GREET methodology, is at 10.2. It's using my current farm practice today based on the bushels I grew in 2024. So I take 29.1 minus 10.2. What is that number, Ryan? Wasn't very good at math. 29.1 minus 10.2. 18.9. Thank you. All right. So remember that number for me. Right now, the federal government says for every point of reduction, we're going to give you 5.5 cents. Now that's basically back to the CI point for you and I. So take that 18.2 times 5.5 cents, 0.054. What is that number? Around $1? $1.04 per bushel of grain. We're irrigators. We can raise bushels under irrigation. So my next math one for you is take 200 bushel times $1.04. $200. $200 of value creation by my score on my farm today. Okay, now $200, it's a tax credit. That tax credit goes back to who? The biofuel producer. But what the inflation or 45Z has allowed the biofuelers to do is be able to sell that tax credit to the public-private sector. Okay, so they can't consume that tax credit. Guess what? They can sell it now. About a month ago, there was an article in the paper. Blueflint Ethanol or Harvest Stone Low Carbon Partners just did a $205 million deal with Bank of America to buy their tax credits. Now that could be a 45Q or a 45Z, which Mr. Blueflint can do either one. Okay, there's some nuances to that, but basically They've already have a bank that says, I'm willing to buy those tax credits. Now, once again, what is the value of that tax credit if they sell it? Sure, it's going to get devalued. I believe there's only one industry day. Is it the railroad company that sells tax credits in the U.S.? I'm pretty sure I'm right. They sell those tax credits 80 to 90 cents on the dollar. So now my $200 is now what? At 80% or 80 cents on the dollar. Tell me what in my lifetime, and some of you guys are older than me, what government program has ever created that much income generation for a farm? I don't think there's been one. So when Bill Sachs said this is the biggest opportunity for farmers, but we need to get in front of it. So where are we at in this process? So a year ago, Bill Sachs said, hey, it was basically the Inflation Reduction Act. This 45Z was enacted. There was things that needed to happen. Two of them. Department of Energy, which is this GREET model. I got to look at my acronym for GREET. Dave, you probably know it. Greenhouse Gases, Regulated Emissions, and Energy Use and Technology. That's the acronym for GREET. That is the methodology that creates that 29.1 or potentially the score for the ethanol plant. Now, you recall there was, I think it was Hankinson, was a 68. That's their CI score, and that's with their feedstock in that score. So most ethanol plants are probably 60. Okay. We're half of the score. You and I, as farmers, we're 29.1. So huge opportunity for them to work with us. But guess what, folks? We need to make sure we're communicating. And you know what? Our data isn't free. If you want my data, guess what? I'm going to give you a carbon intensity certificate or whatever this methodology when GREET finally comes out. And we're going to get paid for that. And hopefully it's 70 to 80 cents on the dollar. And we know that they're getting 5.5 cents per point of reduction on my bushel of grain. So we've been having conversations. Like I said, I started this process a year ago. Yeah, I'm a farmer and I'm also own an egg retail business. And I said, let's get in front of this, you guys. Let's get out and help farmers understand the opportunity coming down the pipeline. So we partner with a company out of Iowa called Continuum. Continuum is Mitchell Ora. He's a 7th generation farmer, pretty young guy, younger than I am. And he said, someday they're going to pay me for my information. So he developed the software that mimics GREET. And within virtually 10 minutes, I can sit down with a grower. We call it the default score. So basically put in some just rough numbers the spring of the year before we planted and say, hey, here's your score. You do these things in the methodology of the GREET, this could be your score at your end. The score moves, like Dave says, every score is not the same. We all start with that starting number, but the score moves with the practices and inputs we're putting into that crop by field level. Okay? No-till, cover crop, reduction of synthetic inputs. Those are probably your big 3 categories that are going to move your score. So once again, we wanted to get out and educate guys. In my local area, which is Blue Flint and Red Trail, like I say, but we've got, 4 ethanol plants? 5 ethanol plants in North Carolina. All of them can participate in this. Most of them already selected 45Z. They had to do that, a month or 2 ago? They're getting in front of this. We need to get in front of this. So one, understand what is your current farm score today with your current farm practices? And what could you be doing different for 2025? Because that can make a difference on your 25 production score. We're waiting right now. Reuters came out with a report here a week ago. It was kind of it was a bad day for me. It's like I put a year of time into this project, and they said, "Hey, sounds like Biden's going to punt the ball." And then I think it was shortly after that there was another report that said, "No, they're going to get this thing over the fence, and it's going to be January." 2 things we're waiting for is GREET, the Department of Energy, this model that they've been developing to come out in ruling. And then also the Department of the IRS to come out with their rulings on how it's going to play. So in a short time, we're going to know, hopefully in January. And we're going to have better rulings to say, okay, how this thing is going to play. Now, I just sat down with Jeff Zuger, who's the CEO of Harvest Stone this morning. Like I say, they just did a deal with Bank of America for $205 million to buy their tax credits. They're waiting for basically this GREET to announce. in the treasury to say, here's how it works, folks. And then it's going to be Katie bar the door. How do we get everybody going in the right direction? So one, go back to us as farmers, understand where you're at today in your score. We're all starting at 29.1. And as Dave said, your score is not 29.1. It might be 15. If you're no-tilling today, you're already in the money. So understand your score. Understand what you can do on your farm to even lower your score even more. Okay, we've got farms, I believe in North Dakota, they can probably get to a 0. Do the math on that one. Like I say, you've got the math now. 5.5 cents per point of reduction, starting at 29.1. Like I say, in my lifetime, I've never had an opportunity like this. I've raised $1.75 bushel corn. I've sold it at 8. And like you say, guys, we have infrastructure payments. We have low commodity years. It's a challenge for us. And this one could really help us. This one could get over the fence. So things you could be doing on farm outside of just understanding your own score is talk to your local representatives, talk to the state representatives, talk to the federal folks. We got to keep pushing this thing along. They've kicked the can for a year. January is a big month for us. If they kick it further, what happens? I don't know. And yes, there's risk with Trump coming in, but guess what? Right now, you look at Trump's RFK. What does he want? He wants us to be more regenerative. He wants us to be better food producers. Now, I'll take a step back and share my story about carbon intensity. And a year ago, I could care less. I'm a plant science guy. I want more CO2, right? I don't need to reduce my CO2. I want more CO2 for those plants to make sugars and put root exudates out and make a healthier plant and more fruit and better yields. I graduated from NDSU in 2000. I came out with a degree in crop and weed science. I was taught 2.2 pounds of nitrogen per bushel of wheat, 1.2 pounds of nitrogen per bushel of corn. That was what I was taught. That's what I did. I was an irrigated farmer, so that meant, guess what? I'm going to put the coals to it. I'm going to put more on. I call myself a moron. I put more on. And after 15 years of farming that way, I felt I was going backwards. Now, I don't know where you're at in your farm practice or your journey, but I can tell you today, I'm raising 200 bushel corn on 0.52 pounds of nitrogen. We have growers in programs that we've helped develop using products that are in the marketplace, the right time, right placement, down to 0.32 pounds of nitrogen per bushel. Can it be done and grow big crops? Absolutely. It's understanding your soil, what are the limiting factors, and how you move the peg. So as you step into this opportunity in 45Z to lower your score, to not have that fear, we're proving it out. The academia is coming out. Your applied nitrogen in urea form, spread, broadcast, only 46% of it's making it into the product. Losing half your dollar. Guess what? Once nitrogen goes to nitrate, gone, right? In the Gulf of Mexico, and that's the other problem we got as farmers. So look at some of these things and understand, what you can do on your farm. The one benefit of the GREET model, which we really were pushing for, which right now it looks like that's going to get over the fence here in January, compared to the Climate Smart Ag. Has anybody heard about Climate Smart Ag and what that was? So Climate Smart Ag was a bundle approach. You had to do a cover crop, no-till, and a nitrogen stabilizer. It was 40B. It was 1-year deal. It was actually active, right? People could participate in 40B, Dave, right? At the end of the day, 40B, like I say, was you had to do those 3 things. You had to do them all. What GREET does is allows you to take that easy step into this deal. If I'm not no-tilling, I'm a conventional guy, I can still play in this 45Z. I may be doing a reduction in fertilizer, or I may be doing a cover crop, whatever. I don't have to take the just bundle approach and do them all 3. I can slowly step into this. And I don't know if no-till or conventional till or what you're doing on your farm, but there's ways to lower your score without having to be forced to do all these practices. Okay. Yeah, that's about it, guys. Any questions? I would say in the modeling we've done through our software, nitrogen reduction, yes. Yep, urea or your N. No, I'm conventional. So, like I say, no-till, and like I said, that's kind of a bundled approach. Like even in the climate smart ag, a no-till could have been strip till or vertical till. There was just like I said, government's not good at coming up with the terminology they want to use. But like I say, no-till, that's going to be your biggest contributor to lower your score. Or one of the big contributors, nitrogen reduction or any synthetic reduction. Using manure, pelletized dairy manure. Look at carbon source fertilizers. They're out there in the marketplace. And then the last one is cover crops. Challenge we have in cover crops right now, we've been advocating for this for the last year. So the county that I farm in, McLean County, I get a score for a cover crop. Burley County gets a score for a cover crop. Sheridan County, which is to the east of us, they don't have a cover crop score. So it's called a SOC. Basically, is it USDA creates these score or methodologies for scoring cover crops by county, and they've been slow to update North Dakota. So we've been advocating for, okay, guys, this thing's going to happen hopefully here in January. I'm using a third-party certifier to certify my bushels for 24. I'm betting on the come. I'm going to have a certificate that says, you know what, I have 10.2 CI bushels across my bushels, and I'm going to go hand it to Mr. Blueflint, hoping he's going to pay me here, in Q1. Yep. Well, like I said, this is probably Dave, you can fill in here. They're making money on top of the tax credit value that they're getting. The ethanol plant will be the arbitrator of it. He's going to decide. He's going to say, I'm going to give you 70 cents. Or I'm going to give you 80 cents on the dollar. We're hoping that someone comes out and sets a precedent, just like California. Hey, we're paying 80 cents on the dollar. Now, it also could be arbitrary, meaning we were actually advocating it also for, it's called book and claim. So the challenge for you, let's say, Mr. Grower, Doug, you're up and you're not going to an ethanol plant. You're going to Mr. Elevator or you're going to the feed yard. Doesn't help you at all, does it? Okay. We're advocating for a book and claim process. So that means Doug can certify his bushels. His bushels can go to the feed yard and he can sell the carbon credit back to Mr. Blueflint. He doesn't have to deliver his bushels. We're really liking that one because it's going to make it fair and equal for all of us as corn farmers. So book and claim, the GREET methodology, treasury announcing, like I say, we're real close. Yeah, and I can add to that. So yes, the GREET and treasury announcements are going to give clarity, okay, how that CI certificate is going to be validated. Obviously, as a farmer, we're going to have to attest to the information we're going to give to the ethanol plant, right? Call it a attestation letter. But the problem for the ethanol plant or any biofuel company is, okay, who's going to carry the light? If I sell that tax credit, okay, and now there's an audit for the farmer and he lied, and he didn't have a 10.2, he had a 30.2. And Mr. Blueflint sold that tax credit. Guess what? Who's liable for that? And that's the things we're working out right now. So what Blueflin is doing is they're working with Lloyd's of London to underwrite an insurance policy for those certificates. So they're covered. But the Lloyd's of London needs somebody to say, yep, we're going to stamp this and certify that this guy's solid. So what we've done, or the platform I'm using through Continuum, we use a third party called Eco-Engineers. Eco-Engineers does a lot of CI verifying for ethanol plants for their Scope 1, Scope 2 reductions. And so we've chosen them to help us in our platform. Now, you can go on the Department of Energy website. And you could probably download the Green Mountain. Dave's probably done this, but you could probably run your own score. Okay, perfect. You have. How long did it take you? Oh, you did. Okay, you went on to Continue. So at the end of the day, you could go say, here's my score, Mr. Biofuel Company. Would they buy it from you? It's unknown right now. They may say, no, we have to go through a third-party audit or third-party verifier is most likely the case. Now, the government could say, all right, we're going to pick these 10 agencies to be the third-party verifier. They're approved, right? I don't know. We're waiting for those rulings. But it's coming. We better get prepared and figure it out and make sure we don't miss this opportunity. Dave, do you know that answer? So this SOC modeling, yes, I believe the further south you get better value for your cover crop. Is that true? What we knew coming into this fall, like I said, I certified my bushels for 24, so I'm ready to hand a certificate here in Q1 of January. They advised us to use the NRCS standards, which was for my county was September 29th. We had to have applied, and they did give. And like I said, I'm sure some of you are in the programs, but I didn't have to incorporate. I could water it up. I could run the irrigator and water my cover crop up. So I did 25 pounds of winter rye, turned the irrigator on, and got it going. The cover crop has to be done the previous year. So you can't plan here in 25. So yeah, this is once again, we're December. You're not going to go spread a cover crop today. You wouldn't probably get value for it if they use the NRCS standards of September 29th or whatever it is for your county. But now you need to look at end of 25, beginning a cover crop on. Because, like I say, most of the modeling for at least McLean County, I mean, it's 8 to 10 points in just the cover crop. Once again, we don't know rulings. Does it have to be established? Does it have to have so much growth? Is there so many days of GDUs? Right now, all we've been told is apply the cover crop. If you have an applied map, you did it, you're going to get the credit for it, even if it doesn't germ, even if it doesn't produce. That's what I've been told. Like I say, we're still waiting for the rulings. We don't know exactly. Great question. So obviously Tharaldson would be tying into that pipeline. So you guys in the east part of the state, that would be a benefit to you indirectly. They're not going to pay you they don't have to pay. They can choose 45Q, which is basically going to give them a tax credit on the carbon sequestration. Indirectly, it's going to benefit you. It's going to make the ethanol plant more profitable. They need to be in 45Z. I believe all ethanol plants, especially if they have the ability, if they don't have the ability to sequester carbon, they're going to have to really use us to get their score down. They probably can get their score, and I think what would be a reduction with just carbon capture? So Hankinson was 69.1. I've always been told maybe they can pick up 15, 20 points on carbon capture storage. Okay, so that gets them to under 50. Okay, to get to SAF, which I believe is going to be the saving grace for us as producers again. Biofuels came in the mid 2000s, right? Early 2000s. 90 million acres of corn grown annually every year. About half of those go to a biofuel company. If ethanol goes away, which has been stagnant, right? We haven't really grown in ethanol demand. It's been taking maybe backwards a little bit. At the end of the day, without biofuel, we'd be raising $1.75 corn. SAF, sustainable aviation fuel, is the next big play for us. And if that does come to fruition, that could be huge for us as producers. But to get to SAF, and quote me if I'm wrong, Dave, they need scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 reductions. They need to get that score at that ethanol plant down below what? 15, 20 to make SAF? They can't do it without us. They need us. You have 29.1 of that, about half the score of that plant is the grain. So talk to your ethanol plants if, wherever you're at, have that conversation. What's troubling to me is a lot of folks are not up to speed on this. And it's disappointing. Even, like I say, we've been working on this for a year and it's been a challenge. And like I say, this is a huge opportunity for us, especially for us as irrigators, because we can produce bushels. Any other questions? Yep. We'll have them up at the Egg Show in Minot. Like I say, so my company is Farmer's Choice, and we're an agent for Continuum. So we use their software to do your scores. And like I say, you can do your score on your own or find anyone that's going to participate that can give you your score. And then, like I say, the biggest question now is the ethanol plant going to give you value to that based on, is it third party verified by someone they approved? And that's yet unknown. So we'll see what happens here in January, but we're excited. I'm excited. I'm looking for $200 an acre. Thank you.
All right, let's thank Steve for his presentation. There's kind of a fuzzy line here because we're supposed to have a facilitated discussion with Dr. Ripplinger and Steve. And yeah, so what do we do? I mean, do you want to come up and talk some more about this, or field some more questions, or how should we proceed here? What? Okay.
Yes, because I'm an academic. And NDSU is good, right? We're land grant, so we do leave the university, but it's fun to engage with folks who are moving the ball. One, I have a former PhD student from NDSU who works for Eco Engineering.